Hey guys, how you doing? I had a question about my car. Someone was asking about the springs, so I thought I'd do a review about the Swiss Sport springs I have installed for this car. It's a really moderate drop. I'm sure you can tell here. I mean, there's still some wheel gap for both the rear and the front. One thing that people were concerned about was that the rear sagged pretty low compared to the front. That's been happening with the Swiss Sport springs. I took a measuring tape for mine and I measured it, and it looks like the front for the top of the wheel, for the from the wheel arch to the center of the wheel, I have 14 and I believe a quarter inch, and then on the rear it's 14 and 3/8. So actually the rear is higher by about 1/8 of an inch. I'm not sure if that's to spec. I don't really remember from the Swiss Sport Spring manual, but just from the look of it, it looks pretty evened out. I don't think any side is lower. The rear is any lower than the front. It looks pretty level. You know, I actually have I think about 60 pound subwoofer in my rear trunk, as well as a 10-inch increase from the full spare that I added. So that definitely lowered the car a little bit, but here's the wheel gap. It's very slight, but in order to, when I added that weight, it actually added some camber to the car, so I had to install, I don't think you had to, but I installed some Figs engineering control arms. I'm not, you can see it from here. It's that orange control arm there on the top. So Figs engineering, and then there's the red coil spring, the Swiss Sport. But the gap is not too bad. It's actually evened out almost perfectly. I mean, the gap is like almost pretty much matching the rest of the wheel well. Same with the front. I mean, it's supposed to be lowered by 1 inch. It actually looks, it actually looks a little bit lower in the front. The wheel gap from the side to the top looks a little bit lower. Let's check the rear again, make sure. The rear, yeah, it's a little bit slightly lower. I mean, the gap is a little bit smaller than the sides, but it's a pretty equal gap. It looks good. Overall, I don't see any problems with the performance. I mean, I had OEM performance. The shocks still perform as, as like OEM. I don't feel any bounciness. The springs are pretty much performing like OEM as well. I mean, the car ride hasn't changed really at all. Other than when I added the performance dampers, the Yamaha performance dampers, that changed it a little bit nice. It became a little bit softer and more comfortable. But the car performs just like it did in 2013 when I installed the springs. And that's pretty much it. Alright guys, talk to you later.